Hey, welcome back. This is the Pregame Show Network. We definitely appreciate you hanging out with your boys here. TC in Atlanta, Uncle Neely in Jackson, Mississippi. Recently, Coach Prime was at the Big 12 meetings. He gave us a little scoop of some of the ideas that he brought to the table. One of them was, hey, why don't we do spring football just a little bit differently? Let's hear what Coach Prime had to say.
I just got from the Big
What's
12
up?
meeting and they talked about spring and what I would like. I said, I would like to play somebody. I would like to practice against somebody that we wouldn't play in the regular season. I would like that because everybody get tired of playing against each other. Your own team in a squad. I would like to do like a 2-year deal with a certain school. We go there, you come here. We good.
Big
And
time.
we practice against each other like the pros do on a Friday. Then Saturday
Yep.
we play like a game, like a simulated game. I would like that.
All right, Neely, I will give you this. I think, and this is like a lot of sports. If you're there in person, you kind of get one impression. If you're watching on TV, you get a different feel. I think spring football games are one of those things you can appreciate a lot more if you're there. When you're watching on television, you're like, okay, what am I really seeing here? Like, what's really going on? Because you have to protect so much, and you kind of have to hide what you're doing, and there's a lot of different factors that go into this. But if you bring another team into the equation, I think it adds a little bit of contrast of style, and you feel that competition. That competition gene might kick in a little more. You got something to root for, something maybe to root against. What was your takeaway from Coach Prime's idea about mixing up spring football a little bit?
My biggest takeaway was here's a guy, again, thinking outside the box. He's not from this tradition of college football where he's been in this system 20 years and just going along with whatever the NCAA does because that's the way we did it last year. He's thinking about not only how to better the product now, but he's also juxtaposing that to the next level. And one of the things you have at the NFL that happens, during the preseason is that you bring in another team and you have a couple of practices against them, and then you play them for a preseason game. We all know that spring games are just the 15th practice. You get 15 spring practices, and you get to culminate that with a public scrimmage for spring. With the evolution that is taking place now, whether it is the impact of the portal and maybe not having enough players during the portal, or as you said, Tolly, not wanting to show your full playbook, you have teams around the nation now who are just kind of scrapping the game as it is and just having like a network of the stars, a battle of the network stars out there. I think Ole Miss, had tug of war and some other events taking place in lieu of a actual spring game. Colorado did play a spring game, did play a scrimmage, has done that the past couple of years. But what a novel idea to approach and put out there and just see if this thing can work or not. Instead of beating up on yourself for a 14th and 15th practice, go against another team that's someone you're not playing that regular season. And I think much more people would be interested in that as fans, as news outlets, as streamers, you name it, that you would have more buy-in and thereby more eyeballs watching it. Great idea from Coach Prime, to once again say, I ain't settling on this is the way we've always done it. Let's think bigger. Let's dream bigger. How can we make this thing go greater and further than we have before? Playing somebody for the spring game would do it.
All right, so you would need to still workshop the idea a bit, because the one thing that pops to my mind first, like, how are you going to handle the quarterback? So I'm sure nobody wants the other team's best defensive end to get a shot at their quarterback. Like, is it, you know, a regular game at the line, but the quarterback's got a flag, or, the protection of the quarterback would still be paramount in the spring.
Yeah, it would have to be. And I think that at the end of the day, it's still just a gentleman's agreement. Sometimes within your own team, you have a defensive lineman or edge rusher forget and they quote unquote touch the quarterback. So that would certainly have to be policed that the quarterback is, no hands on him whatsoever at all, keep the pocket clean. You can even do some things like 7-on-7, Tyler. I think 7-on-7 against a collegiate team would garner more eyeballs, than the ones and the twos and the twos and the threes playing each other in what's quote unquote just another practice. So I don't want to try to find a problem in every solution. I do think that it is worth discussion and exploring because something has to change as college football is evolving in the spring, particularly with the impact of the portal, particularly when you're running up against the NFL draft and who's going to get televised or not. Adding this kind of excitement to it might be the silver bullet to solve a problem.
Neely, how much more do you think you could learn about your players during the spring if you saw them going against another team as opposed to their own teammates on a day in and day out, or not?
I think you can learn a lot in the trenches, and I also think you can learn a lot in the secondary. At some point, you are battling your teammate, and it's hard to go 150% against a guy, and his locker is right across from yours, and you've been practicing against each other for 2 or 3 weeks. No one wants to quote unquote get hurt, and certainly no one wants to hurt a teammate. But I think when you're going up against a true opponent in a scrimmage, you see it all the time in the NFL in the preseason when they're getting ready to have those joint practices, it gets chippy out there. So I think it's a way, to measure toughness. A lot of times in practice, man, you may have a little deal cutting taking place. I'm the receiver, Tyler's the cornerback, we're running buddies, and I'm like, hey man, Tyler, look, I don't feel like today. Kind of, let me get a pass today. You got that kind of deal cutting that can be taking place because guys are friends and teammates. You going against somebody else, ain't no deal cutting. It's just like the NFL preseason. Everybody's trying to make that roster and show that they belong here. I think it's going to advance the competitive nature of the spring game, not decrease it.
All right, Neely. So, Coach Prime was talking about being at the Big 12 meetings. Of course, this will be the first year in the Big 12 for Colorado coming out of the Pac 12, which just kind of fell apart right before our eyes in this past year. Neely, how do you view the personality of the Big 12, the persona of the Big 12 as a conference, specifically for football? And how does Colorado and the personality of Coach Prime, and of course his personality rubs off onto the program, what type of fit is that? And what potential do you see there?
I see great potential. I've been with Coach Prime two conferences before in the SWAC and the Pac-12. So there's two commissioners as well. But I think going into the Big 12, the commissioner of the Big 12 and Coach Prime see a lot eye to eye when it comes to understanding the value of eyeballs and increasing the brand and the recognition of the brand. So I look forward to a lot of these ideas that may have been, something not even considered in previous conferences to really be taken a look at and being adopted in the Big 12, this season and beyond, because you have a commissioner who gets it. You have a commissioner who understands the value, and people want to see inside things, and people want to see what's taking place. And we can't just rest on, well, we've never done that. I mean, we never had NIL and collectors before. And so now that you have that, I think anything that was once a rule is now something that can be looked at, whether it's cameras on the sideline, locker rooms, huddles, you name it. And I think Coach Prime and the Big 12 can be linked together and be in that mindset that really changes how people view college football on Saturday afternoons.
Should a commissioner or a leader or administrator of sport be fair and have equal access and opportunity to all the coaches? Or Neely, should a coach say, man, I got this unicorn here in my corner. I really need to leverage, partner, do whatever I can to really maximize this relationship? Or should the Deion Sanders energy only be 1/12 of the equation, if you will?
Absolutely, it absolutely cannot be 1/12 of the equation. I think that as a commissioner or leader of any group, your overall mission is for the good of the whole. A rising tide lifts all boats, but there's nobody pumping more water in, using that analogy, than Deion Sanders. I used to say this back during the Jackson State and SWAC days. Imagine if Barack Obama, after being president of the United States, wanted to be your dean of the School of Liberal Arts. Would you treat that former president as a dean of the school, or would you treat them as the former president that they are in everything they bring to the table? I think the Big 12 gets it, that they have a unicorn in Deion Sanders. And whereas, yes, it may be 1 of 12, It may be one of this ever number, and he's just a head coach in that regard. You also have to appreciate that he is Deion Sanders, he is Coach Prime, and everything else he brings to the table. And that has to be leveraged while you have it. And you can put things in place that can exist well after it is gone. I think there have been previous stops in Coach Prime's professional career that people failed to do that people fail to maximize it while they have it and put in infrastructure in place that could exist long after it's gone. But I think the Big 12 gets it. Let's put some things in place while we got this coach in the Big 12. Who knows what realignment is going to look like in the future, how many conferences we have. And the Big 12 could be the standard of how we market and showcase college football on Saturdays, because we got a guy over there that's coaching and he knows about production as well.
All right. It'll be interesting to see the ideas, the approach, and everything that comes out of this conference realignment that has Colorado with a new home that they will kick off in 2024 when football season rolls out. All right. You are watching the Pregame Show Network. There is plenty of exclusive content we're going to bring to you all spring long from Coach Prime. So make sure that you stay right here. Check up on us. I mean, look, first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, I know I do. You ain't checked on your kids. You ain't did nothing. You go straight to that phone. Well, make this your destination. We will not disappoint. We'll have something for you when you wake up in the morning. The Pregame Show Network. He's Uncle Tom. I was about to call you Uncle Tommy.
Uncle Tommy. I love it.
I don't know why. I don't know why I was going to call you Uncle Tommy. Maybe because we've been talking for a very long time today. He's Uncle Neely. I am Tolly. I am an uncle, but that's not my nickname. All right. We'll talk to you guys a little later.